This is the Detroit Sports Podcast Network.
The biggest icon in podcasting.
Welcome in, everybody, to this week's edition of the DocNJock Wrestling Podcast. I'm your host, Adam the Jock Straczynski. On today's show, a WWE wrestler will be sidelined for a little bit. Taking a look at what's going on in the world of WWE wrestling. We've got Asuka, we've got The Vision, we've got Seth Rollins, we've got Randy Orton. We've got a whole lot of stuff going on. I have noticed something about Kinana James that I'd like to discuss with the doc, as well as this wrestler makes a shocking return to AEW, and I've got to get Doc's opinion on something. Is it a thumbs up? Is it a thumbs down? You're going to want to stick around for all of that. Help me break it all down, sort it all out. He's the one. He's the only. He is the Doc, John Macaroon. What's up, cuz? I know you're feeling a little under the weather, too, both of us.
It's
Just
crazy.
Slipping in here, feeling ill today.
Crazy, cuz there's not much that I thought I had in common with Andrade El Idolo, but it looks like you, me, Andrade, we can't pass wellness test. It's pretty freaking crazy that you realize that this performer is the first ever to go from WWE to AEW to WWE back to AEW. It was a crazy return and wildness, and just to be on the professional side, we're going to talk about Kinana James wrestling, right?
Yes, we're going to talk about their stuff with Kinana in regards to wrestling.
Oh, okay, because I definitely noticed her, but I don't think we've talked about her wrestling in quite a bit of time, so I'm excited. What are we talking about today, cuz?
You know what? Let's start with AEW. So you brought it up right there. The big news: Andrade is back. He made a surprise return. Attacks Kenny Omega after a match where it looked like Kenny Omega and the Young Bucks might have been trying to bury the hatchet, but Josh Alexander hits him from the side, and next thing you know, continues to beat him down. Young Bucks do not step in to save him. After the ring gets cleared a little bit, Kenny's cutting a promo. Lights go out, and this black masked figure, who you know to be Andrade, shows up, takes off his mask, and then lays out Kenny Omega. Is sideline or sides with the Don Callis family. So Andrade is back in AEW. Like you said, goes from WWE to AEW, forces his way out of AEW. I never thought he would ever return back to AEW after going to WWE. Gets fired from WWE only to end back up in AEW. This is absolutely bonkers, but I think the best part about all of it is he looks absolutely fantastic. Like, he looks like he's in some of the best shape of his life, and he looks great. He looks reinvigorated. He looks like a brand new person. I guess the big question is, what's the over-under here when he gets sick of whatever the booking will be with AEW? Because if you remember before, he got tired of the booking in WWE, goes to AEW, gets tired of the booking there and forces his way out, causes a fight, gets into a whole little thing with Sammy Guevara. From there, goes to WWE, gets tired of the bookings, very vocal about it online on Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it, to then get fired for a wellness violation. We still have no confirmation on what that wellness violation is, to then end up back in AEW, where he seemed like he was really aggrieved when he was in AEW. So how long does this happy marriage last? Because I think I've got it somewhere right around 16 months.
A year? Okay, I'll give it 18 months, a little bit more.
18. Okay.
A year and a half, maybe 2 years. And not even. You know what? Let's just say on the optimistic side, and then now we're in October of 2025. I could see stuff going down where by like March, April next year, he's irrelevant. Like the way the AEW is that they just, it'd been a while since they brought back somebody from WWE. So they're like, all right, it's an opportunity, but has AEW done a good enough job when they've taken characters and tried to build them? I don't know, man. Could there be some, self-inflicted wounds that happen with Andrade? Man, the stuff is crazy. I don't know if it was worth it to bring him back. Like, I mean, AEW's roster is stacked. Okay, I guess it's a nice feud to come back to. It's relevant, but it's one of those deals where you have this guy that's now just known as a guy with untapped potential, and he's burned bridges. I mean, if you can't make it in WWE when they bring you back from AEW, that's a big problem. And you just hope that whatever personal demons. Well, I mean, it can't be easy to work in an environment where your ex is basically the queen of the company, and her father has the biggest legacy in the world. I mean, basically everyone is going to look at you all funny because they're going to side with Team Charlotte. So try it. I think he owes it to himself. He's only in his mid-30s. That's what's crazy, is that the early part of his prime. That's what sucks to me, is that in your prime, from 30 to 38, is where you set your legacy. And right now it's been a big DUD dud.
Yeah, I agree, and that's the surprising thing, right? Like, I feel like Andrade's been wrestling for so damn long, and we've known about Andrade for so long here in the States because of him coming to WWE, him getting that bit of a push, and then it fizzling out, then him going to AEW, and he was pushed there, and then that fizzling out. I feel like we've known about him for so long, and you're right, he is only in his 30s, and he is entering into that part of his prime. Yet I'll be honest, I don't see a future for him because I just know how this story goes. So he gets upset, like you said, he burns bridges, like you said. I don't know how this works out. I was surprised that he ended up back in AEW. The paycheck had to have been nice. I really and truly, I assumed that he wouldn't go to AAA, obviously, because WWE now owns that. But I figured he probably would have went to MLL or CMLL, and he would have wrestled there. I figured he would have done something with some of the other Mexican promotions and maybe bounced around, maybe ended up in New Japan. But this was surprising. This was shocking. Had no idea this was going to happen. I think that was the big story that came out of AEW, and that was essentially right there in our opening segment. So I guess kudos to AEW for getting a big name back. Going to be interesting to see if it works out or not, because at this moment in time, if I had to bet, I don't think it works out the way maybe Andrade, maybe Tony Khan wants it to work out. I just don't see this being a happy marriage. The other big thing that I took away from AEW this week, and I probably should ask this question last week, but it took me a little bit, and then I got the balls to put it on the rundown and talk about it with you. What do you think about Pac with his short hair? Is that thumbs up or is that thumbs down? You had a closing scene for AEW Dynamite where Darby Allin has what essentially looks like a dog collar strapped around his neck or a belt strapped around his neck, and the he's getting choked, and it ends with Pac basically laying him out, and they do this little shot of Pac, and it's kind of his head, just his face, and I'm like, I do like Pac with short hair. I thought that last week. I was like, I like Pac with short hair. I don't like the long-haired Pac. The long-haired Pac, yes, he looks like a total badass. But the short-haired Pac looks like a fucking menace. Do you like Pac with short hair? Or do you like Pac with long hair? Is that a thumbs up Pac with short hair? Or is that a thumbs down Pac with short hair?
No, thumbs up, man. I really liked him as a performer. I really feel like he's always been on the brink of superstardom, but has always been just a little bit short. So now I think there's a chance to establish him continuously.
Is that a pun?
Establish him as somebody that is dominant and can be rugged. And look, man, he's somebody that I think with more time and experience can be somebody at the top of a card, and I think he can be somebody that you can put in some realistic feuds. But again, that's a great name right there. The likes of Orange K. Listen, it's 6 years. It's so apropos. It's 6 years since Dynamite debuted, and you have like maybe half a dozen, I could almost say a dozen stars that you think could be so much bigger if booked right. Mm-hmm. Orange Cassidy, Hobbs, Wardlow, guys that are in the mid card that never got that push, and Pac is one of them. I feel like he's just been buried in this booking that AEW does, where you have like five guys that they're the big guys, and nobody else has really broken through to be somebody that like. And I think that what's crazy is that you don't have to steal all of WWE's ideas, but what they've done is they've kind of started to move some people into some bigger spots to make them stars, like a Braun Breaker. And it took a while, but you're starting to see new stars. And I just think AEW's got to start pushing some different people because you've been going on a year with the writers, and it's been like a long time. And I'm hoping that Pac and opportunities that he gets to take advantage of it.
I mean, if you go through a list, start counting, right? So
Yeah.
Daniel Garcia could be a major
Yeah.
star. Pac could be a major star. You said Orange Cassidy. I feel like Darby Allin is on the cusp of being that mega superstar, but not quite there yet. Who else do we got?
Big Bill. You got some tag teams. You got guys that are just all over the place that have never gotten to the point where they could get to be big stars. You even look like a Claudio comes over, and you went from
another guy.
You went from mid card to mid card. What was the point of that other than money and a lower schedule? I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah, there's a ton of talent on this roster where if you just push them right, like Hook's another guy who could be a monster superstar. I feel like Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
I love Eddie Kingston. You know, I'm a huge Eddie Kingston fan. I feel like if Eddie Kingston was booked accordingly, he could essentially be AEW Stone Cold Steve Austin. You know what I'm saying? That guy who is the everyman, the guy who is the anti-authority guy, the guy who basically walks it like he talks it. Like that's Eddie Kingston. And yet Eddie Kingston to me feels in AEW very, very mid. They haven't figured out that formula to strap rockets to guys' backs, right? Like you got it with Hangman Page, and I think Hangman Page you got it right with. And they took it slow with him. MJF, I don't know if that was MJF more or less dragging AEW or AEW figuring it out with MJF, but MJF's another one that they help make and help build. Like I said, with Darby Allin hasn't really, it's there, but it's not quite there yet. You know, it's one of those things. Sammy Guevara was another guy who really, if you did things right and if he kept his nose clean, I feel like Sammy Guevara could have been a monster superstar. And
Takeshita too.
Kind of a guy. Takeshita's another guy. Yeah. That's another guy who really and truly should be headlining shows for you. Like he's got a great look, wrestles incredible. He's a monster international star. He's gone over and done a ton of stuff with New Japan. Like he's got the crossover, and yet here he's just kind of a guy, you know? And so to me, it feels like there's a lot of guys that they just kind of swing and miss, and then yeah, you're right. They go out and they try to do these retreads with some of the WWE guys, and it just doesn't necessarily work. So I don't know, man. It's AEW in a weird spot, like always, doing AEW things, like always. We'll see what happens. But surprised to see Andrade. And again, he looks fantastic. Hopefully he gets booked well, and love the way Pac is rocking the short hair. We both think that's fantastic. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's go to WWE. I want to get your thoughts on this Asuka heel turn. I feel like Asuka being presented the way she's being presented right now, cutting a promo, half in English, half in Japanese, the paint. You've got Kairi Sane looking terrified at her side. I think it's absolutely fantastic. I feel like this is the most dangerous and almost unhinged Asuka has been. It feels as though Asuka's been pushed to her breaking point, and we are getting some really, really good character development out of Asuka in this program that she's in with Io Sky and now Rhea Ripley getting sucked into it as well. I think having Kairi Sane at the side, being the student, as she called her, and being the teacher, the upset teacher with Io Sky, I think that's a fantastic dynamic, and I think this adds a lot of depth and a lot of character to her character. What are your thoughts on this new heel turn with Asuka?
It's amazing, and you almost could argue they maybe should have did this 2 years ago. You could have maybe had her debut this way as a tough, badass person that was really a dominant force. I feel like she could have had a nice heel run for a couple years. It's it's good when someone finally finds a niche that can work for them. And naturally speaking, I think for a lot of performers, it's a lot easier to be a heel. You just do things to upset people. You go up against the hero, and you do dastardly deeds. So it's an opportunity for her, and any opportunity that she can to maximize her career, it's been great because injuries have been a little bit of a challenge, and it just always feels like she's been right there on the precipice of superstardom. She has been a champion, but now hopefully she gets a chance to make some more memories.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll see what happens. I feel like they should have, like you said, pulled the trigger on this sooner. I'm really invested in what they've got going on with her. Look, there's been a lot going on. The big story on both Raw and SmackDown is the Vision, and there's a couple of things I want to touch base with you regarding the Vision with Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton because there's some crossover and some overlap here. I want to get your thoughts on the Seth Rollins Cody Rhodes promo where Seth Rollins seems so insecure with himself and his power in the Vision, constantly reiterating to Cody Rhodes that all the decisions go through him. But when he said it, he seems like he almost doesn't believe himself. I think what they're doing here, where they're setting up this little bit of a friction between the Vision's leader, Seth Rollins, and Paul Heyman, I think this is fantastic because it's showing, like I said, some insecurities within Seth Rollins, making him seem almost human, which I feel is a fantastic way to relate to the audience. But more importantly, it shows that there's some weak links. Like he's not as impenetrable as he believes he is. And I think that vulnerability sets up for a great program with a guy like Cody Rhodes, who is kind of playing this a little bit aloof, and is kind of being the thorn in the side of Seth Rollins. What did you make of the promo that we got on Monday Night Raw, where Cody really kind of just digs into Seth Rollins a little bit and really evokes that insecurity within him?
Absolutely, especially because of the fact you have the natural story where Seth Rollins has to have doubt because he's lost so many times to Cody. And I like it too because you can plant the seeds that, okay, if Paul Heyman senses weakness, you know there's a big monster that's 48 years old that can come in and just eradicate Seth Rollins. And I think the Vision would look kind of cool with the man Brock Lesnar, the Braun Breaker, and led by Paul Heyman. That would be something to see. And you have you have 3 feuds that you can set up moving forward. With the Vision going up against Seth Rollins if they decide to dismiss him. But it's good. It's one of those things where heels always have a weakness of getting leadership but not knowing how to handle it, and that can be the downfall of a group. So it's great. It's great storytelling. It's just amazing, and I really like the angle of Cody being vulnerable, saying you are my friend, and then Seth coming back. I thought it was a really good, at least good way to say, okay, look, these guys have fought before. We know the memories, and it's going to be very cool to see. And also, too, like I said, think about it. Bronson Reed, Braun Breaker, and Brock Lesnar, the Triple Beast, man. It's going to be crazy. And in the end, I'm excited because I think we're starting to see that if there's a War Games, I would love to see the Vision with Brock Lesnar take on Seth, take on Cody and the Usos and the others. Yeah, it would be Roman. Yeah, it'll be a fun 5-on-5, and then you can set up whatever's going to happen into the Rumble and WrestleMania. So it's just amazing the way in which War Games could tie into a lot of the stories that have been happening. So it's great. I think it's just well written, and you know that Paul Heyman and Triple H have worked together and said, all right, we have weaved it. Let's get to where we need to go. And with Seth, it's so true that whatever he's going to be involved in is going to be simply amazing. Amazing to see. What did you make of how it went down on SmackDown with how Seth beat down Randy Orton?
Yeah, so that's the other thing that's interesting about this, right? Because this storyline's not just taking place on Raw, and it does not just involve Cody Rhodes. It also involves Randy Orton, and I think that overlapping, like you said, that weaving of those stories is so impactful because now you're pulling Randy Orton in, and they're setting Randy Orton up for what I believe is to be a heel turn. And they're trying to create a little bit of division between Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton, but then Seth Rollins comes in and he stomps Randy Orton. So now Randy's going to want to get at Seth, and they end up losing. Cody Rhodes, Randy Orton end up losing their tag match against the Brawns because of Seth Rollins' interference. But I think the most important part of all of this, what took place on SmackDown, was when Seth and Paul Heyman were headed up the ramp, and Cody's in the ring. And you can see Seth look over his shoulder and see Cody, and he thinks he's got a shot to go in there and stomp him. And Paul's like, don't do it. He's in your head. Don't do it. And he goes in there and he attempts to do it anyways, and Cody ends up laying him out. If he would have just listened, he'd have been in a much better place. And I think it shows why he is the wise man, why he is the oracle.
Yes.
I again, going back to creating that little bit of friction within the vision between Seth Rollins and Paul Heyman. I think this was a little bit of a nugget. You've got little nuggets going on with Cody and Randy. You've got stuff going on with the Bronze. I think it's fantastic storytelling that is pulling a lot of different parts of two different shows together, which is so well done. Which then brings us back to Monday Night Raw, where you had Roman Reigns return to help take out the Bronze and sow a little bit of confusion within, we'll say, the bloodline. I don't know if we're still going with the bloodline, but within the bloodline, as Jimmy and Jay continue specifically with Jimmy, but as Jay continues to take on this very Roman-esque persona, as Roman is feeding Jay advice. So you've got Jimmy and Jay in this match with the Bronze. The Bronze are beating up Jimmy and Jay. Jimmy and Jay are basically almost losing this match. When Roman's music hits, he comes down with a chair. He ends up taking out Braun Breaker. He then takes out Bronson Reed, and he sets it up to where Jimmy and Jay can get the pin. As they're going to close, there's this great camera shot of Roman talking to Jimmy or Roman talking to Jay, and Jimmy's in the middle, and he just looks bewildered and he looks confused. And we've got some of the audio. We don't have the audio, but we've got what was said between them. And Roman says to Jay, "What I tell you, this is your fucking show. Fuck all of them. It's only about you. It's only about us. Don't ever forget. Take everybody out. This is the only thing that's ever mattered. Do you understand?" And it seems as though Roman is giving Jay orders or setting Jay up to make moves, and Jimmy's just kind of like, what is going on here? And some of those seeds of doubt were planted earlier in the show, where you had Jimmy trying to talk to Jay about what took place last week, and Jay's like, don't worry about it, this, that, the other thing, just kind of blows it off. Again, really good storytelling. And again, it is all centering around the vision. It's all centering around the characters within the vision. You've got multiple people doing multiple things, and it's pulling multiple people in. And again, this goes back to what you said about setting up for possibly a War Games, where if it is a War Games match, you are going to have a ton of people who could be wrestling in this match, because we've already brought up Randy Orton. We've brought up Cody Rhodes. We've brought up Roman. We've brought up both Usos. And then we've brought up everybody in the vision. We also have Brock Lesnar, who could get mixed in there. So again, really good storytelling, pulling both shows together and forcing you to pay attention to not just Raw, but also SmackDown. What do you think of Jay's new persona? Like I said, almost Roman-esque. And Jimmy just kind of being like, what the hell is going on here? And the confusion within the bloodline.
Yeah, it's the morphing. Like, it's kind of like the training of like Roman Reigns passing down some information to somebody.
Yes.
And it's one of those deals, though. It's just with Jey Uso, you like the idea of him being a leader, but he just really is a capo. Like, he ain't a leader. Like, he ain't a Don. It's really cool if you look at it from the Mafia perspective. Like, you know, he kind of reminds people, if you're a Godfather fan, of like Santino, a hothead that everybody knew like had weaknesses that eventually got him killed because he was a hothead and he ended up on the causeway and he got himself with 59 bullets in his side. And, you know, to look at it from that perspective, Roman Reigns is a Don. Like, he's got the total package, conducts himself well every time he comes out. And then you got Jay, who they made a Don for like 6 months, and he ended up getting 25 stitches in his head because he can't swing a chair properly. So I like the idea of weaving in ideas of leadership going down to Jay. But I think that in the end, there has to be some revelation that you're going to come up short. And whatever that does to Jay, or how that is, or maybe you just then look at it and go, man, maybe Roman in a year goes, man, maybe I'm looking at the wrong guy. And you give it to Jimmy. And Jimmy cuts his hair short, and he becomes a little bit more of a leader type. So you can tell a lot of stories with this. It's amazing to see. Like I said, Jay is somebody that is very unique in what he can do. But in the end, I just think that it's just tough because there's something missing of whether it's the it factor, whether it's just knowing that he's had a lot of demons and weird stuff happen, botches, that I don't know if, now he's kind of entered into that you're an entrance kind of guy, which is, it's good. It's good for the company, good for his standing, but Roman has the ability that when you see him wrestle, you want to see him move around and do his thing. So I can't wait to see how it plays out. But to me, I'm skeptical. I hope they prove me wrong.
Look, I think they see a lot in both these guys, in both Jimmy and Jay as singles competitors. So I think you'll have this little mixing of them as a tag team, but I think a lot of what we'll end up getting is going to be more single stuff. And I think this is a way to try to give Jay a bit of a rub and give Jay a bit of a push to do more singles work. We'll see what happens. I mean, maybe we get the bloodline back together. I don't know. I don't know where that's going. I know Solo cut a promo for his Bloodline 2.0 called His Family Tree. Sounds like they've got somebody else coming who's going to be added to that group. So it's going to be a monster faction, probably only rivaling the Wyatt Six. So we'll see what happens there. But I am intrigued for what is going on between Roman and Jay, and Jimmy kind of on the outside wondering what the hell's taking place here.
Yeah.
Let's transition back over to SmackDown, because I did notice something during the women's segment that we had. First off, I want to talk about something that was totally unbelievable and I thought looked ridiculous. And I definitely want your opinion on this. So Stephanie McCool and Tiffany Stratton are having their contract signing, and they're both standing in the ring and they both have their belts. And for some reason, you can tell that they are told to hold their belts on their shoulders. Tiffany, because her belt's a little bit larger than Stephanie's, is struggling to keep her belt on her shoulder.
Yep.
She then has to bend down to sign the contract. And you can see the belt almost fall off of her shoulder, and she has to readjust, but she has to hold the belt on her shoulder to sign her contract instead of just setting it down like a normal person. Any normal person would just set that down. No normal person is going to try to sign something with their one hand and hold on to a big cumbersome belt. Why? Why do they do these things that are super unbelievable? No normal person, like I said, will ever hold on to something. I'm assuming that belt weighs approximately 10 pounds. They're no longer as heavy as they once were because they don't have all of the fastening weight. They're Velcro now, which is silly when you see it on television. But those belts are definitely lighter than they used to be. But still, it's about 10, 12 pounds that she's holding on her shoulder. Nobody's going to hold on to 10 or 12 pounds when they've got to sign something. Also, your entire life, you've been taught to basically put your one hand on the piece of paper that you're signing and then sign with your other hand. Just set the damn belt down. It'll be okay. What were your thoughts on that weird, awkward holding the belts while trying to sign? And to me, well, I'll wrap this into the other part of this segment with Kinana James. But what did you make of that?
Yeah, it's awkward. It's just, sometimes in the ring, you just have to kind of, make some adjustments. And I know you want to be the champion and everybody wants that visual and everything like that. But you got to also understand to just sign the contract, put the belt down, lay it on the ground, lay it on the table, do whatever you got to do. But don't make it look so awkward. And I just that definitely was a note that I noted, was like, this is awkward. And I just feel like maybe sometimes these young performers don't have sometimes the vision to kind of just adapt on the fly. They want to be so robotic in their head. And then sometimes it is a lot that you got to pay attention to, what you're saying, how you deliver it, look at the camera, do all this stuff. And sometimes it's just be natural, go out there and make it look cool. So that wasn't cool.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't cool. Now, what was cool was Kinana James.
Yeah.
I think Kinana James is fantastic on the microphone. I think she comes off so natural. I think she comes off very comfortable. When you juxtapose that with Stephanie McCool, who I thought cut a good promo, and you juxtapose that with Tiffany Stratton, who I thought cut a good promo, they pale in comparison to her. Kinana James is absolutely fantastic on the microphone, whereas Stephanie McCool seemed almost like she was thinking about her lines and trying to get everything out. and Tiffany Stratton was trying to play a character that I think she was a little bit uncomfortable being. And Kinana James was none of those things. She just came out, she cut a promo, she was concise, she spoke her words, she didn't flub her lines, she sounded like she believed everything she was saying, and I thought that was absolutely fantastic. I know that you think Kinana James looks like the total package, and I agree. But what do you think of her mic work, specifically in this segment, compared to your champions, Stephanie McCool and Tiffany Stratton?
Absolutely. I said the same thing. I said that in my notes. It was kind of funny. I said she went from Mandy Rose to Charlotte. I was like, oh, I like this. She's smooth. She looks like she's somebody that can handle it, an opportunity. I said, oh, there's more here. Untapped potential. Let's go. Let's see. And this is what we've been talking about to weave it in with AEW. You got to introduce some new people in a way that makes you intrigued. And we'll see. We'll see if Kinana James has been given a chance. The NXT brand has been pumping out a lot of stars, a lot of good performers, a lot of good people. I'm very curious with Kinana James how she's going to handle an opportunity now. And I think that WWE, when you get the light and there's an opportunity, it's up to you. And that's where it has to be something where she can deliver and get her opportunity. It's her time to shine, and let's make it happen, Kinana, and look good for her on SmackDown. A little bit of freshness. I overall, my notes on SmackDown was it was fresh, it was cool, it was nice to see, especially on the heels of a nice match between Sami Zayn and the gentleman that came out,
Carmelo Hayes. Aleister Black.
Aleister Black, yes.
Carmelo Hayes came out and The Miz attacked him.
Yes.
So we're going to have that. That's going to be popping off. And then
Yes.
Aleister Black came out. You know what? Since you brought that match up, I do want to talk about that match a little bit. As Aleister Black was coming to the ring, I was like, well, how is this going to play out? And how is this going to end? And then Damian Priest shows up, distracts Aleister Black, which allows Sami Zayn the opportunity to win. I thought that was well done because, again, you don't want to hang a loss on Aleister Black because you're trying to build him up, and you obviously don't want to defeat your champion for his belt. So how do we do this? I thought that was well done, and it keeps that feud brewing between Aleister Black and Damian Priest, which I thought was well done.
Very well done. So I thought SmackDown was, in my opinion, show of the week.
Yeah, I agree with you. I thought SmackDown was absolutely fantastic. I thought it was really, really good. You ready for some news and notes?
Hit me with this week's professional wrestling news and notes. What made your list?
So, very short week of news and notes. We've got one story to talk about here, and it's about a WWE wrestler that will be sidelined for a little bit. This star will undergo some surgery for an injury they suffered at a recent TNA television taping that took place on Friday. In recent months, WWE star Ridge Holland has been undergoing a character change across both WWE Evolve and TNA Impact. Ridge was in action for the TNA Victory Road last weekend, where he was defeated by Mike Santana. Following the event, Ridge also appeared at this week's TNA television tapings, where he suffered an injury during the match, with him being helped to the back by medical staff after the match was over. Taking to Twitter, Ridge provided an update on his status where he confirmed that he suffered a Liz Frank injury with him set to undergo surgery on Friday. He simply wrote, Liz Frank injury, ... surgery Friday. See y'all in a bit. Ridge received a number of shots at both NXT Championships and NXT North American Championships late last year and early this year before making the move to Evolve over the summer. You and I both know from covering football, Liz Frank injuries are nothing to mess with. This is something that AJ Styles had, I want to say it was probably about 9 months, maybe a year ago he came back from it. I think he suffered it probably closer to 18 months ago. So you can come back from it. It's just incredibly painful. And some of the explosiveness, and you're just never quite really ever the same. And it's for Ridge Holland, a guy who we'll say was kind of on the come up. I don't really know where Ridge Holland was going at this point. You know, there's been a lot of people who have been hurt in matches with him. It sounds like him going to Evolve and him spending time in TNA was to try to help refine some more stuff before he went back to NXT. We'll see. But this just kind of sets him back, and I don't know if he recovers from it. Injury is one of those things that it can kind of really derail your career. So we'll see what takes place with Ridge Holland, hoping him all the best and wishing for him to have a speedy recovery. That's going to do it for this week's news and notes.
Not to be cold, but that dude's just going to be remembered for the guy that took out Big E. Unfortunately, that sucks.
Unfortunately.
That's going to be his career stamp. It sucks for him, but whatever. Get well, and hopefully you hone your craft, because the name of the game is not to put down superstars in their careers. It was a freak accident, but my goodness, man, you got to be careful. That's the number one job, is to protect the other soul that's in your possession when you are wrestling. Make sure you follow Adam on X at AdamRSTROZ. Follow us at Detroit Podcast. If you've agreed or disagreed with anything that we've said, if you feel like AEW is hitting their peak with their booking, let us know. 6 years of Dynamite. You hope that they can turn the page. The ratings still are kind of flat, but they're moving along. They're going about their business in a way that is interesting, in that they make money, but it just kind of feels like they're leaving so much on the table. And it's a company that has their own vision, and it's a little bit different than what the mainstream would like, but they're still around, and that's at least credit to them for being able to be relevant and enough to be talked about. You have whole shows and content creators dedicated to just bashing AEW or talking about AEW or defending AEW, so it's real interesting. Make sure you let us know. Let us know what you think. We're always curious to hear your wrestling thoughts at Detroit Podcast. I can't wait for next weekend. The Perth pay-per-view is coming to town. The Perth pay-per-view is coming up soon, and I can't wait to see how some of these matches play out. Some good matches and some good feuds that will hopefully tell some stories and move some narratives moving forward. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. I can't wait to record the next episode of the Doc and Jock Wrestling Podcast.